first speaker is Denise Grosse, and her pathway is visionary communication. She's working on level 2, project 2, and the project title is Discover Your Communication Style. The purpose of this project is to identify your primary communication style or styles. And speaker's background relative to speech: Denise learned to talk when she was a baby. Hey, you did too, imagine that. Talking is one form of communication. Communication is the driving skill that draws most of us Toastmasters. As Toastmasters, we haven't yet learned that communication is vast, varied, and full of vagaries for which labels are useless. Then we still have room to go. The title of her speech this evening is I'm Sorry. Please welcome Denise Grosse with her speech, I'm Sorry.
I'm sorry broke my heart. When my mother was battling cancer, she got to a point in her treatment where it became impossible for the nurses to find a vein for drawing blood or administering medication. We made the decision to have a PICC line installed. PICC is P-I-C-C. It stands for Peripherally Inserted Central Catheter. What it is it's a line that's inserted into the vein, and then a portion of the line hangs out of your arm, and it's capped off, and it's an easy port for the medical professionals to draw blood or administer medication without causing pain to the patient. One of the requirements of having a PICC line is that it requires daily flushing to prevent infection. As my mother's primary caregiver, the responsibility to flush her PICC line fell to me. The nurse that trained me how to do this started out by giving me a box of pre-filled syringes with the solution and the following instructions. Each syringe I was to take out when I used one a day, depress the plunger slightly to remove any air that might be in the syringe without losing any of the fluid, as little fluid as possible. Take the cap off the PICC, insert the syringe, and fully unload the syringe into the PICC line and recap it. It was made very clear to me the importance of making sure that there was no air in the syringe. Should I fail to do that, it had potentially fatal consequences. It's hard enough watching a loved one struggle with cancer, knowing that they're at a point in that path that recovery is not possible. Then to have the burden daily of being concerned about being the one to shorten that already shortening lifespan is terrifying. Every day for weeks, my mom and I had a routine set up. I'd flush her catheter and be glad that I was done with it for the day and she was still alive. A couple of weeks into the process, one night after I'd flushed her cath, she looked up at me and she said, "I'm sorry." My immediate thought was a dozen questions. What are you sorry for? What are you talking about? Why are you sorry? I had the presence of mind, or I was just numb. I didn't speak those thoughts out loud at the moment. I took a moment to think. And by the grace of God, something occurred to me, and I realized that when she said, "I'm sorry," what she wasn't saying was the real message. My mom believed that parents give birth to their children and they're responsible for taking care of them, raising them, and into independent adults where then you can become friends and enjoy your adult children. But as the parent, your hope is when your time comes, you go to bed one night and you die in your sleep. You are not a burden to your children. My mom felt like she was a burden. That was not my fault doing anything to make her feel that way. That was her belief system. and it broke my heart. My mom gave me life. And I didn't want her to be sick and dying of cancer. But if she was going to be sick and dying of cancer, there wasn't an ounce of my soul that was upset about being her caregiver. It was the minimum I could do for the gift of life that she had given me. How do you respond to that unspoken message? In that moment, I realized the only real response was, I love you. It was that memory that came to the surface after I went through studying the various forms of communication styles. We all have strengths and weaknesses in those communication styles, and we've developed those over the course of our life by experiences such as this experience with my mom. The huge portion of what we fail to think about in communication is the role that quality listening plays. And I realized my weakness in my communication skills I need to work on is to increase my listening skills on 3 points. I need to learn to listen without judgment more often. I need to learn to listen especially without planning what I'm going to respond with. And ultimately, thanks to that unfortunate moment that broke my heart and I will never forget, I know I need to learn to listen better to what's not being said. I'm sorry.
If you like this video, please check us out on meetup.com and search for Helmsman770. You can also find us on the other social medias such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please come on by. We'll be happy to see you again. Thanks.